Hello and welcome. Today we're diving into a pretty radical idea about how we make choices. What if I told you that most of your decisions are pretty much locked in before you even think you're making them? Sounds a little wild, right? Well, let's get into it.
Right off the bat, we're taking on a huge belief we all have. We love to think we're in the driver's seat, using our willpower to steer our lives. But this idea suggests something totally different. What if there's this invisible current, this internal flow, that's already setting our course long before we consciously pick a direction? So here's how we're going to unpack this. First, we'll talk about the illusion of willpower. Then, we're going to completely redefine what mood even means, looking at it as a gradient. After that, we'll explore the two different kinds of flow this whole thing creates. And finally, we'll figure out how to actually read this inner compass to, navigate life a little better.
All right, let's start with a struggle I think we all know way too well. That gap between what we know we should do and what we actually do.
You know this feeling, don't you? It's so frustrating. You logically know you should eat the salad or go to bed early or just not press send on that angry email. But then you find yourself doing the exact opposite. Again. You're stuck in the same loop, getting the same results, and just feeling totally powerless. So what is going on there?
Well, the usual things we blame are, I just don't have enough motivation, or maybe I'm just bad at making decisions. And of course, the big one, willpower. We beat ourselves up thinking, if I just had more discipline, I'd make better choices. But here's the thing. These explanations don't actually solve the problem. They're just symptoms, not the real cause. And this is the core of it all. The problem isn't in that split-second moment of choice. No. The real action, the real force shaping your decision has already done its work before you're even aware you're making a choice. So, if it's not about willpower, then what is this invisible force? This brings us to the absolute center of this whole idea, a completely new way of understanding mood. Okay, this is a fascinating redefinition. We usually think of moods as just feelings, right? Happy, sad, angry. But this model says, nope, mood isn't about how intense the feeling is. It's about directionality. Think of it like a force that has a specific direction, and it's already pushing you towards whatever you're going to do next. This is really the heart of it. We have to stop thinking about our inner state as a series of still photos we need to judge, like, oh, I'm feeling bad right now. Instead, we need to see it as a moving picture, as a trajectory that's already in motion. We have to shift from just evaluating our feelings to understanding the dynamic slope, the gradient we're currently on. Now, think about that for a second. The reasons we give for our choices, I picked this because of X, Y, and Z, are often just stories we tell ourselves after we've already acted. They're really just justifications for a flow we were already writing, a path we were being pushed along by our mood. This is such a great way to picture it. Imagine your inner world is like a landscape with hills and valleys. If you put a marble on a slope, it doesn't think about where to go. It just rolls down the easiest path, right? The path of least resistance? Our choices are kind of like that. The gradient of our mood makes certain options feel easy and downhill, while others feel like a tough uphill battle. So what creates these personal landscapes of ours? Well, that's where this concept of a life OS, a life operating system, comes in. This is your internal programming. It's the sum total of your habits, your gut reactions, your patterns of thinking. And this underlying system is running 24/7, constantly generating the unique slopes and valleys that shape your world. Okay, so how does this actually play out in our day-to-day lives? Well, it turns out these gradients can operate in two very different ways, which creates two totally different kinds of experiences. Let's break these two down. First, you've got the collision gradient. Just think of this as a super steep, abrupt cliff. Following this path inevitably leads to a hard stop, a collision with reality that forces you to change through pain or burnout or regret. But then there's the question gradient. This is way more like a gentle, rolling hill. It allows you to make these tiny adjustments with almost no friction. It's the difference between slamming into a wall and just gently steering a boat. And this is so key. You can't get rid of gradients. They're just part of being human. The goal isn't to live on some perfectly flat, boring plane. The real work is in understanding the shape of your gradients. Are your internal slopes super steep and leading you towards collisions? Or are they gentle, allowing for this kind of continuous, graceful adjustment? So this all leads to the most important question, right? What do we do with this information? How can we actually learn to read this inner compass and use it to navigate our lives with more awareness and frankly, a lot less friction.
It really comes down to a simple 3-step practice. Step 1, stop judging. Seriously. Instead of labeling a mood as bad and trying to fight it, just acknowledge it's there. Step 2, observe its direction. Get curious. Where is this internal current trying to go? What's the downhill path it's showing you? And third, ask questions. Gently ask yourself, where is this mood trying to lead me? This simple shift takes you from being a victim of your mood to just being an observer of its flow. So upgrading your life OS isn't about wrestling your emotions into submission. It's not about forcing more control or trying to have more willpower. It starts with something much quieter, much more profound, just awareness. It's about developing the sensitivity to read the subtle currents that are always flowing inside. And when you make this shift, your whole experience of life can change. It stops feeling like this stressful series of big, scary decisions that you have to force yourself to make. And instead, it just becomes this continuous process of generation, of small adjustments and course corrections along a dynamic, flowing path. So I'll leave you with this question to carry around with you. The next time you feel a strong mood coming on, just pause and ask yourself, where is this trying to lead me? Am I going to freeze this feeling, label it as good or bad, and just react to it? Or can I keep it in motion and treat it as a trajectory, as helpful information that's just guiding me toward my next gentle adjustment? The choice, as it turns out, is all about the flow.